guys, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Maria Monasterio and I'm sustainability consultant here at cove.tool.
And my name is Sofia Gniausheva, and I am the marketing designer, joined as a branding designer and the overseeing of everything visual.
I'm so excited for the session today because I think that as an architect, we use visual aids for everything that we do. Like we use diagrams, presentations, just like the whole renders, to use like and convey our ideas for our clients. Even it helps us to like sell that design concept at the beginning or even at the end, just to like have this pretty render that sells to our clients, or like even if it's like a contractor or other type of consultants.
So presentations and documents and all of that basically.
Yes, it literally ties everything that we do. Like even if we think that it's not that important, it's actually 100% of our work. A bad image doesn't sell a concept. So I actually want to ask you, Sonia, please talk about more about your role here at cove.tool. Like what do you think that is, like why graphic design is so important for us? Like how do you see that you can help us to deliver what we do at cove.tool?
Yeah, absolutely. So just in general, and specifically for our company, clarity and storytelling are the two key aspects for everything. I want the information to be as understandable as possible.
Mhm.
I want you to get all the graphs. I want you to understand why that image is there, why it's not there. I really want to guide the audience with this story that because obviously it's not just pictures of buildings, right? There's emotions that are tied into it, so we want all of these emotional hooks, and we want you to feel the, the future contributions of this particular building or this particular project.
Yes.
So that's what we're trying to convey here because we truly believe in it. So we need to convince you also, and for you to believe in this as well, because we think it's a great project. Therefore, we want you to think that as well.
Totally. Every project is unique for sure. And I think even like you probably as a graphic designer have like several design strategies and principles that you use to help us to show it. But I like that idea that you mentioned about like tie with emotions. Like every project has like a feeling and emotion that we need to create for the clients that satisfies also client needs but also community needs. So I want you to talk us about more from graphic designer perspective. What are the design strategies that you use specifically for boards or our presentations? Because I think that is really interesting, and then we will show you more things.
Just in general, design principles, they kind of apply to any design aspect, whether it's interior design or graphic design, whatever it is. But this is something that you could either hire a designer for, which would be me, helping everybody here in-house, or you would just learn these principles yourself so you can understand how to present your work better. And majority of it is contrasts and alignment of things. Just it sounds very simple, but it is really important. Hierarchy of certain things. So you want the colors to truly speak to the audience as well.
Super important.
Truly, yeah, they truly matter because it does create the emotions that you were talking about. And I believe we have an image actually that shows, for example, right here, we have a title and we have the rest of the text, right? Usually there would be other images, but we'll see all of those examples later. But you can see how the title itself is bigger than the actual text. So you want to see that first. You want to see the most important information first. And it really does depend on like what you're presenting. If you're presenting like, I don't know, educational building, obviously you want it to be lighter. Obviously you want to use that white background. And majority of the times you still want to use a white background just so that all of your imagery stands out and all of your text stands out. Just kind of how that works. And I personally prefer to use grids as much as possible. Not even prefer. I feel like that's a must for any designer in general, and architects probably will relate to that. It's easier for architects to relate to that because you guys kind of build everything in grids
Yeah,
anyways.
there's a proportion also concept that ties
Yes.
to the grid. So we use it for everything, honestly.
So I think we have an image actually here where we can see, I think it might be the next one, where you can see how you can align in different ways and how your audience would also read it. Like just the basics of, usually it's like an F shape or a zigzag shape.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because that's how your brain just reads things.
Yeah.
So you will be looking at it from left to right and then top to bottom, obviously. And that's how you want to lay out your designs as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the grid could be very complicated or it could be super simple, like just 3 columns. And it kind of, in my head at least, it makes it look like buildings, like tall buildings. So
Yes.
I don't know. That just always makes me think of architecture anyway. So I was like, okay, gotta make it look like a building.
It makes sense. Somehow, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And there's plenty of other techniques there, really. It really does depend on your project. You just got to make sure that you're highlighting the most important things, and everything else just fits in the grid so that information is digestible and it's not just, a chaotic something.
Yeah,
Just a storm of information.
especially for us architects or designers, like we always have so many ideas
Mhm.
that we just want to like throw everything in there.
I want to show you everything that's in my mind.
Yes.
Yes, that's true. So we want to keep it simple. That's one of the key rules that I actually have, and the marketing team probably hears it from me a little bit too often. But I just want to minimize everything as much as possible. If it's just all black with a little bit of white text, that's great. It's better than like a bunch of pictures, and especially pictures that they just don't show the
Yeah, they're not adding
The
so
idea.
much to what you want.
Exactly. And we do have kind of different documents, I guess, that we want to present. So do you want to talk about that a little bit more? Like what type of documents do you usually show to your clients or whatever audience you're showing that to? What is it?
Yeah, I think that in general, like we use presentations, of course, like always. It could be just a slide deck, but also we use the boards so much. Like it could be a physical whiteboard. It could be just like if we are looking for a design competition, we have like a whole page that we need to produce with everything, the information that describe that design competition. So I think that also in those like 2 types or 3 types of of documents that we present, where we have like diagrams, we have renders, we have even like we need also to have like a design statement and design concept. These key principles are super important and ties to also like how you will sell your design concept with your identity and your unique visual identity for this project. And it might not be exactly related to brand identity, but I would like to have your input. Like I think that we have like 2 types also about that, like how you can sell or utilize like a brand identity and join it with a company identity too.
Yeah, or like a project identity or something like that. Yeah. So we can actually, if I'm looking at 2 different documents here, right? So if we're looking at a big project, and here we have slightly different visuals actually, but this is a great example of branding because for the company specifically, or for you as a designer, architect, whoever you are, the creative brain behind your project. This is great because if you're presenting to multiple people, everybody knows, like they see the particular feel and particular mood of how you present. And obviously, like you use the same color palette. I personally don't go more than 3 to 4 colors in my presentations usually. It just takes away from it. Most of it is just black and white and the big highlight color, which we're the one that I'm presenting here. But like a big bright blue title or certain key elements to highlight parts of the building or something like that.
Yeah,
That just
like
communicates so much better than having a bunch of different colors, unless there's an actual reason for it, you know?
No, I love that. I think that's like designers and architects in general, like we both communicate like
Mhm.
pretty much with neutrals or just black and white, and that punch color that you're talking about is
Mhm.
like
Because you want
it's
to show the
just perfect
structure
to
more
highlight.
than
Yes.
anything. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, correct.
So when it comes to branding for the company, I would say yes, repeat small tiny little elements on every single page of your presentation, whatever it is,
Okay.
right? But when it comes to project, I would assume that's more emotional, kind of like what we started talking about in the very beginning.
Yes.
So because it's more emotional, you want to use the colors that would be more, that would tie with that emotion, right? And that would tie with that community. And you want to show off the people that, you know, go with that community, like the demographic that we actually see around that building. We have some images, great examples of, it's all good design, in my opinion. It's all good design, and I know some of it looks a little bit chaotic, and another one looks pretty great, right? And I'll explain why. So the very first one, this building is super colorful, like it's very fun. I'm sure the project itself is advertising something, I don't know, for kids or just like a playhouse of some sort, but it's on the water. I know it's not a playhouse itself, but it's something that communicates, oh, this is a space where you can just come and relax, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's clearly laid out, and it's using the colors that are also used in the images in this graph, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I want people to do. I want you to pull from the images that you already have and use that as your text or as your drawings, for example. Just throw it into Photoshop and just do that color change. It takes a couple of seconds, but it just changes the project completely. And the font that they use here, this is not necessary because majority of the time I would assume that would like distract your client, right? But if it makes sense, sure, throw that font in there, that fun font in there. And then we have this other image on the right, which same colors, same everything, right? It has a bunch of graphs. It even has all of those arrows where it shows how, I guess, like the space flows, or maybe, I don't know, maybe something about the sustainability chart or something.
Yeah,
but it's just so chaotic. I don't understand anything that's happening there. I feel like even if I knew everything about architecture, I would still not understand anything that's happening there.
I feel like I should understand, and I kind of like if you really focus on it, you can see some like interesting ideas. But it's what you said, like
We have
the
so little
layout.
time.
Yeah, the layout is really important. That we like the chaos makes you lose the important and the actual concept of
And
the
you
whole
lose their
project.
attention.
Exactly, and exactly in the left, maybe like what you're saying about the title, that it could get distracted. I actually rather to have a title for that design concept. Like I like the idea to have, even if the font is not that fun, it's just like a very minimal, simple font. I think you are kind of like calling out the design concept, and even for people that is not designer, that is not in the industry, that is not an architect, they will immediately understand what you're trying to do.
And they'll remember it too.
And they will remember, exactly.
That's true. I think we have some more examples of the branding actually that's a little bit more tame compared to this one. So this is kind of what I was talking about. Clearly this project is focused on sustainability, and they include a lot of greenery in here. But if you look really closely, they're including a lot of these muted and calm tones, right, and hues of the colors that they already have, which is like yellow, blue, and green. So all of that is included in these graphs. And you don't want to use loud colors here because obviously you don't think of loud, like 80s bright pink when you're making something sustainable like this.
No, not really. You want just your green color to be your stronger color in the images.
Exactly. And again, you want to keep it to black and white or whatever else, and then have that as a contrasting color. And actually, we'll probably talk about images later, but you can see here that they're using warm images.
Mhm.
So it's probably makes you feel like you're sitting on this porch on a sunny day, you know? And if you're using cool tones, that would be the very opposite, like Scandinavia somewhere,
Yes.
or whatever else you might
Yeah, no, I agree. That is so warm that it just makes you to feel like you are outside
Mm-hmm.
in like connecting to nature. Like I think that the whole concept of peace, no matter what is actually the building, is just making you feel that the project is connected to nature,
Mhm.
that indoor and outdoor concept that you always want to experiment, especially in sustainability.
Mm-hmm. And since you said concept, I'm kind of thinking you want to have mood boards also just to show off the idea that you have, because obviously you're not always going to have the finished project, right? But you still want to show the mood that you have in your mind,
Yes.
and you want them to feel that mood. So whatever you can include, textures, is that
Yes.
usually okay?
Yes,
It's like
textures, patterns, everything that
There
you want, like even not only for the client. I think that even like the next image will like show you some boards, but even for the internal team,
mhm.
as a designers, it's super important that we have these always like layout somewhere, like just pin it up in your like area of design, like in your studio, because sometimes in so many iterations we forget what was that initial idea that the client
Mhm.
buy, and the mood boards help us to remind ourselves what we need to like follow, what was like the actual important idea, the textures that you saw with the client that they like, patterns that maybe are just like natural patterns, like by some like biophilic design, if we are like using strategies there,
Mhm.
that we can just like have there to remind ourselves,
Mhm.
like go back. It's kind of like that mood board is it help us to go back of what is actually important for like meeting those goals or the client needs.
Yes,
It's
and
very cool.
from design perspective, I'm also when I'm creating something new and I'm trying to grab somebody attention, right? I think of just the most effective ads that I could possibly think of, like I don't know, bring in Nike or your Adidas or whatever else. They have such striking visuals when it comes to like emotionally they're striking, you know. So that's what I think of. Like, what did they do to achieve that goal? It applies to any industry. You could totally use that in architecture, and here, especially in some of the images, you can see through the lighting, and even I think there's like mountains in the background or something. Like, put it in a setting where it makes sense for that building to be, right?
Yes, I think that also ties with what you were talking before about the project's identity.
Mhm.
Like sometimes that uniqueness, it just has to be like where the project is located. What is the community that is surrounded? Like
Mhm.
maybe it's like in a natural park, like we don't know, like a very that is very important for that community. So you actually want to see those mountains
Yes.
because that will also like help the community like just to feel identified and like that project is theirs.
Mhm. Yeah, and even in the design itself, within the graphic design, I've seen people do this in some of the big architectural boards that you present, right? You would have the mountain that it would potentially be on, and the line, it like outlines the mountain, or it outlines whatever geography is around there. So
that's it.
you're instantly connected to this in your
Yes,
mind.
no, I
Yeah.
get that. I seen that happening. It's magic.
It is magic, yes. So I'm assuming throughout this entire process, you have a lot of ideas, and the process is long, right?
Yes.
So can you kind of explain how would you even show that? Like, how do you show all of these
Yes.
sketches and all these 3D renderings? Like, what are the most important parts? What do you want to highlight there?
Yeah, so I think in general, like everything is important in the process, and like internally, the teams want to like keep record and keep like everything and any iterations that we do.
Mhm.
But then when we are with the client, because you are meeting with the client in several part of the designs, right? So I don't know how to answer like what will be more important, but in any phase that you are gonna meet with the client, it is like imperative for us like to show at that stage in the design what we're gonna show, like what is actually important at that time. So let's say that we are in design phase, very early yet. We have several massing studies, like even sustainability analysis with the different massing iterations, and it's just could be chaotic to show the client like 20 different iterations, right? Like that would be
Yeah,
like
I'd
a
get lost.
disaster.
I'd get lost.
Clients will never understand what was our like thinking process there.
So which one do you pick here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that very important to like shows the ones that are very unique, that we think that are the best ideas or the most like potential that will connect with the client, like not even only needs but also with clients taste. Like sometimes clients come like with case studies at the beginning and tell us like what they're looking for. Like let's say that the client is looking for mass timber building. So you have to look and like connect with that emotion that they want in like textures, pattern, like we just talk about it, but also like more beyond that, the wood is also how you present it.
Yes.
So I will say like for this, for example, at the left, like I like the idea how it's everything like black and white, but then they use the red color like we saw before things. So in if you saw like there's like at the bottom above the last image, we have in studies, but it's like literally the diagram of the 3D of the building, and then the red color is moving like around just to
The roof or whatever else.
yeah. So for the project, like powerful tool, like a visual that the client will say, okay, I need to see all of this, but I know that the red is our actual the unique proposal that they are trying to explain to me, and then something is happening here in that 3D model, but I know that I have to see the red color. So it's really even to like make everybody in the room to understand like in the same level. Like what are we talking, what you have to see,
and what are the differences between those
What are the
iterations, maybe, or whatever else, iterations or elements of it.
Yeah.
I totally get that. And also looking at these images, I'm thinking, well, talking about the storyline, right, and how you want to
Yes.
present to a client, you can clearly see that the right one actually shows that off a lot better, where it highlights the big picture, right? That's the first thing that you see, and I kind of think of it always as like the same way that it works in your brain, right? You have this big idea, and then you have all of these technical little things, and then you have to come back to the big wow that you want to present to them, right? So you want to wow them with some of your project.
Just a sneak peek.
Yeah, but it's still a big image. You still want to see everything, and then you have all the explanations and all the diagrams, and by the way, all of your charts should look very clean, and they should still
We're
align.
working on it.
Yeah, they should still align with everything shown here. Just makes it easier for your brain to process.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll do that, and then I would come back to the images of your, I don't know, maybe they're more
Diagram.
lifestyle. Yeah, maybe they're more like a lifestyle at the very end, so that you give them like the big reveal at the very end.
Yeah, no, I like that. Those images at the end could be also like specific details, but like, yeah, those internal renders that maybe you want to show again, like how
'Cause that's
you're
important,
managing the
obviously.
interior design and things like that.
Yeah.
Love that. I think that we have more even like cases for that.
This is actually a great example. This is my favorite. So, and this kind of ties back to branding as well. Like when I'm thinking of cove.tool or maybe any other company, I want to see the same elements within maybe your logo or maybe within here it doesn't really apply, but when it comes down to other companies, like the logo is what I'm trying to tie into every single page, right? Same applies to architectural projects. You can see on the very first image, you see this big idea, right? And it's a sketch, which I kind of like that it's a sketch, because it's just an idea. It's not like a full building yet. Yeah, and then the explanation of it and the color style so well, which makes me very happy. But you can see that the building itself has all these beautiful arches, and they tie that arch into every element of graphic design here. And at the very end, it actually shows you, I don't think these are real images. I think they're like 3D renderings.
I think they're
But
all
they're-
renders.
Yeah, but they're so realistic.
I know.
And the lighting, everything about it, that's what makes me like gasp at the very end. And it just, yeah, everything just ties together, and that's how your design should look. The second one, it's a little bit more subtle, but it still does the same thing. It's a round building. It's almost like an amphitheater, right? And you can see that the diagrams, they're shown it from the top, so you can see that circle. And they even tie in that circle within the image, like that sun or whatever that is. Maybe that's just a design element. And if it's overlapping, that's also great. That actually is a great technique that you can use in graphic design. And then it just has like those tiny little dots. I don't know. It's just, you can do so much with it. You can get so creative with it with just one or two elements that is within your architectural design.
I love that. And sometimes like you need that to even win proposals, like win pursuits to the clients. Like I remember like one of my professors always in architecture school told me that it was not about something beautiful. It was just about like I needed to think a better design concept. Basically, that's what he told me. Like you need to go and rethink what you just bring me and like let's do it again. And honestly, like after I graduated, it is about looking beautiful. It is about like how you are presenting your ideas. And like the client will like buy something if
You want the
it's
pretty
pretty or not.
You want the pretty pictures.
You want the pretty pictures.
Yeah, and also this is a great example of all the pretty pictures. The angles matter so much. It really does matter if your building aligns with the corners of the frame and the text, all of that, and you could still use all the same frames and grids that we were talking about in the very beginning to align with the buildings. And if it's a space with like tall ceilings or something, obviously that's something that you want to show off. That first image really, like you can definitely see there's people there, there's a little bit of depth to it, so it's not a boring image, you know, and you're also looking from eye level perspective. So I don't know, I just feel like I'm in that space when I look at it. It's not an aerial view. It's a common space. I want
the
to
power of a good angle for like photograph or for a render is powerful.
Exactly.
And like I think that there's something interesting happening there with those three. Like look how like my eye is just keep going and like going back to the first one. Like the powerful one image against to the other ones that maybe you have more information and like you can see even what is happening with the rest of the design, but my eyes keep going to the first one because it's just so powerful.
Well, it's also the angle actually, because it kind of leads. It has that line.
Yeah. It's just like
There's so many things.
Yes.
And the repetition also within the design. If you have anything, well, again, you will have things repeating within your building, right? So you want to show that off, and you can do exactly the same thing within your design. Repetition actually helps you because if on first page, let's say it's a presentation, if it's on first page, you have like a red dot or something, and that identifies like a chapter of some sort of your project. You want that to repeat so that visually it's connecting as well. So same way that it connects with real life here. And even if you don't have fully developed photographs or 3D renderings, there's so much that you can do with it. You can add so much. Yeah, there's plenty you can do.
Yeah, I think that we have a question in the chat about that, but let's just like wrap it up
Yeah.
for everybody, and then let's go back to do Q&A.
So here as well, this is a great example too, where when you show enough images, you also want to show it at its best,
yes,
right? So the one at night, the building is clearly very visually striking at night, so of course you want to have that image there.
yeah,
And you want to have all those people, in like, I don't know, they're like coming out of a game maybe or something like that.
yes.
Like
I think that is super important what you said. Like if there's a building that even like works at night, it has a function, it has just as a recreation type, you have to show renders at night. Everybody loves them just because it's pretty. They are pretty.
That's my favorites.
But like especially if it's something that you're selling with building use that it will be utilized at night. Like it's really important. And people, it's important that you put like people from all demographics, like a specific, if you have like a specific community, like it doesn't matter about gender, but also like age. Like if it's like for seniority, like if for senior people, you have to show those type of like people in the renders, like entourage. Like you have to work with your entourage so much.
And make it realistic, like if there are nurses in
Yes.
there, you probably want to include somebody that would usually be in that role.
Yeah.
If it's kindergarten, obviously there's gonna be a bunch of
Because
kids.
you need
Yeah.
to get kids and teachers.
Yeah, you wouldn't put
Some
like
parents,
a
but yeah.
construction worker into
Yeah.
an art studio. Unless, I don't know, they're taking classes there after work or something, but like that doesn't make sense in that particular setting.
And
when
I've
you're showing
seen
those
that
images.
happening. Like sometimes when you're already rushing with a deadline, you're not thinking, you're tired, you haven't slept so much. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, so maybe in those cases, you just want to simplify the kind of people that you include. That
Yeah.
You can wear all of the basics, like don't have any.
Yeah.
They don't have any attire that would,
Totally.
signal at something else.
So to go back over one of the questions that we have in the chat, like what can I present if I don't have a fully developed visuals of a building?
Okay, I see how that ties in. So, yeah, if you don't have a fully developed image, I think the best way, or at least in my practice, some of the best ways would be to use Photoshop or even AI. Like, you're not making an entire project with AI. You're just using it for ideas, and you just put in some trees in there, right? And you want to create that emotional connection again. So if it's a black and white rendering, or if it's just a boring rendering, there's nothing around. You want that mountain, or you want that creek, or you want this, I don't know, fountain, something absolutely random, and trees around it.
Yes.
And take a picture or like screenshot it from an angle where you would be as a human standing there, right? And that helps the most, I think.
All those layers just give them life.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. So to finish for today, we have an interesting question here, like what are 1 or 2 quick tips to elevate visual presentations quality for architects?
Okay, I've definitely said those words already, but to wrap it up, we've mentioned that it has to be minimal. That's key. It has to be memorable. That emotional aspect, yes, and everything in your design, in your graph, it has to make sense. Like it really just, you can't just throw in random stuff in there.
Yeah.
It has to make sense. The reason for that particular graph being there has to make sense. So
I
those
love
three,
M's.
minimal, memorable,
It makes sense.
makes sense. Yeah, that's a key takeaway.
Love it. Well, guys, I hope that you enjoy our session. I think that this is the best conclusion for the whole session today. Thank you so much for joining us. And you can reach out in LinkedIn or live chat if you need anything from us in cove.tool. Here's the person that does the magic.